My name is Ivor David, and with my wife Ruth, we are delighted to welcome you to our home to host the launch of the Magid of Sydney, a book of incredible hand of God's stories and our very close friend Tom Rev. In Sydney, Australia, Tom and his wife, Sue, and their children were more like family than friends to Ruth and me and our children for several decades. And since Tom and Sue made Aliyah in 2016, they've been our neighbors, where our deep friendship has continued. Miracles happen all the time, some large and some small. Most of us are not tuned in to recognize the small miracles, not our Tom Rev. Tom has an innate ability to recognize even the smallest of miracles. It is a huge part of his very being. Every time we are with Tom and Sue, often around a table, enjoying a Shabbat meal with other company, it is inevitable that a story or two or more will spill out of Tom about something that just happened to him or someone he had just met, involving what some may call an inexplicable coincidence or a serendipity, but which he immediately recognizes as the hand and the presence of God in our daily lives. Tom, who calls himself a simple Jew, the former kosher butcher in Sydney, has endless stories which share his spiritual journey and his unlikely but unique and powerful attachment to Tzaddikim, and in particular the Kahn Rabbi and the Rebbe's family in Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak. While being a spellbinded storyteller is a true gift, what Tom dreamt about was to be able to share his stories more widely. Dared he hope in a book form. But he's not a writer. So how could that come to be? Another remarkable story in itself is how a well-known author, Rabbi Nachman Seltzer, appeared like a kippah-wearing white knight to put pen to paper and faithfully convey Tom's voice through Feldheim Publishers to a new audience of readers in America, Australia, Israel, and elsewhere.
All right. Yay! Big clap. Come on, see, that was pretty ordinary, guys. That wasn't an Aussie clap. Yay! That's a lot better.
This great day, the launch of the book, The Magid of Sydney, has finally arrived. Tom and Sue, Mazal Tov, on this very important day in your lives. Good on you, mate. Tonight we're honored to hear from author Rabbi Nachman Seltzer, from David Kahn, and on behalf of Feldman Publishers, and of course Feldheim. Well, everything goes. and from Tom. We would also like to welcome Greer Faye Cashman, a renowned columnist from the Jerusalem Post, who has taken time out of a busy schedule to join us tonight. And who's Australian? Aussie. There's a special presence in this room I'd like to acknowledge, one of the central stars of Tom's stories recounted in the book, and I might guess of Tom's life, in his great-grandfather's Sefer Torah, the Rosenbaum family Sefer Torah, right here in our midst tonight. For those wishing to do so, Ma'ariv will be said on our Merkbesed straight after the formalities. We are delighted to welcome Rabbi Nachman Seltzer. Rabbi Seltzer is the author of 45 books, including titles such as 90 Seconds, Living Legend, the Zira Shimshon series, the well-known Incredible and Incredible 2. Those were preceded by The Network, The Link, and The Shadows, Child of War, and 9 out of 10, and Moment series, Stories with a Twist, and the best-selling It Could Have Been You series of short stories. Rabbi Seltzer is a columnist for the international Hamodia magazine, where his true life stories are beloved around the world He is the producer of Visions, an album of English songs, and co-producer of The Story Experience. Rabbi Seltzer received his smicha from Rabbi Yitzhak Berkovich at the Jerusalem Kollel and teaches in various post-high school programs for American students studying in Israel. He and his family live in Ramat Beit Shemesh. Rabbi Nachman Seltzer.
Can you all hear?
Yes, yes.
Everybody hears? כן, אתה אומר כן, אבל הוא מדבר באנגלית. אתה מבין אותו? יופי. יידיש. Verbal Yiddish.
English.
Hello everybody, good evening. It's so nice to be here. First of all, we have to open up by saying to our wonderful host, to Rabbi Ivor and his Rebbitzin, Shkoyach, thank you so much for opening up your beautiful home. What a view of Yerushalayim. I don't think Mir Cashman had a view of Yerushalayim like this at an event. She's usually down on the museum on the ground floor, but here you have 7 floors up in the sky. This is a night. Look at this, Rebbitzin Cashman. What a view. I just want to start off by telling you all something beautiful. That Ivor and Tom had a story recently, and Tom told it to me when I came to his house. We were talking about this event, and Tom told me a story which I wanted Hamadia, and it was a very nice story, and I think it brings out, it explains who Tom is. This story that Tom told me, which I published recently. And the story basically goes, when Tom was in America in the hospital for his son, Jonathan, so him and his wife, they came from Australia to be with Jonathan, and they didn't know how much time they had. And there they are, and one day they're in the hospital, there's a knock on the door. Somebody came to the door, there's a knock on the door, and he opens the door, there's a rabbi-looking fellow there. He says, "Are you Tom Rev?" He says, "I am Tom Rev." He says, "I was sent here by this person who used to have a kollel in Australia. He sent me to find you." And he says he wants to arrange for you to get a bracha for Rabbi Dovid Feinstein, who's the rabbi in the Lower East Side, the Rosh Yeshiva of MTJ, the son of Moshe Feinstein. And I want to bring you to get a bracha from Rav Dovid Feinstein. Now, if you know Tom, this is a chance of a lifetime. Tom loves Gedolim. Tom loves rabbis. Tom should have been a rabbi. Tom should have been a Makubal.
I love the Commander Rabbi.
Commander Rabbi of Australia. Anyway, so Tom, this is an opportunity to go to Rav Dovid Feinstein. What an opportunity. So Tom, he wants to go. The problem is, he doesn't know how Jonathan is going to be in the next few hours. He can't leave his son's side. So Tom says, regretfully, he says to this person, "I really appreciate you coming to tell me to take me to Rabbi Dovid, but I can't come with you because I don't know how much longer my son has." And the man leaves. Now we go, how many years later, Tom? 11 years later, to the day. A man walks into the shul in this building complex.
To the day.
And he goes over to Rabbi Ivor, right? Rav Ivor. I'm American. Americans don't have names like Ivor. Ivor's a whole different thing.
Sorry.
It's okay. Every culture has their names. Like England has Nigel. There's no American in Nigel. I have to say it right. Nigel. So there's Ivor and not. Anyway, so this man comes over to Ivor, and he says, "Do you know Tom Rev?" He asks you, "Do you know Tom Rev?" And Ivor says, "Do I know Tom Rev? Do I know Tom Rev?" "I know Tom Rev very well." He says, "What do you?" He says, I also know Tom Rev." He says, "Would you like to see Tom Rev? Would you like to speak to him? Because if you do, guess what? Tom Rev lives in this building." The man was very excited, and he wants to see Tom Rev. So, breakfast at the Rev home, yeah? Something like that. A little gin and tonic. Tom was very proud of himself because at his house I drank my first gin and tonic. He was so proud of himself. He introduced me to the gin and tonic.
We broke him in.
Anyway, so what happens? Who is this man? Who is this man, Tom?
Avi Lex, who was friends of Rabbi Silverberg.
And who was he? The man who came to
He's the man who
came
to the hospital 11 years ago.
11 years before. to the day. He came to Tom's room, to the room in the hospital, and he knocks on the door and he says, I'm here to bring you to Rabbi Dovid Feinstein. And Tom couldn't go. And now 11 years later, to the day, 11 years later to the day, the same man meets Tom. And Tom is so happy to see him. He is a lot of akos tov to this man. Yes, Tom.
The first visit.
Keep it short. Yeah. This speech is coming soon.
31 years he hadn't been to Israel. He left here at the age of 20. He was 51 when he met me that day.
11 years to the day after Tom regretfully said, I can't come with you. And now Tom says to him, they catch up and Tom takes him around different places in his beautiful car. He drives him around here and there with his son. He came to visit his son in the mirror. And Tom says, listen, he says, tomorrow is Jonathan's yahrzeit. I'm going to our menuchas. Maybe he says he couldn't go, he couldn't make it. Okay. The next day the family goes to our menuchas. I actually went 1 year with them. The Commander Rebels, it's an event. And they went to the kever and Tom told everyone the story of what just happened with this man who surfaced after 11 years to the day. And when they were finished, Tom said to the mishpacha, I want to visit the Commander Rebbe. Every time I come, Rabbi Nachman, the Rebbe, the father of the current B'nai Brak Commander Rebbe, I want to visit him. What? Put a stone on the grave. So the family got in their cars and they drove over to the Commander Rebbe's kever. Tom gets out and he puts a stone, and of course he's crying because it's an emotional day for him. It's the yahrzeit of his son, and it's also to be by his Rebbe. And Tom B'chlal is an emotional guy. He cries very easily anyway. So you can imagine what it was like. Tom could barely see. He was tearing. And then his son-in-law says to him, look over there. He says, look over there, he says. Do you see that grave? And Tom says, well, I can't see. He couldn't see it. He couldn't read it. Tell me, what does it say? And the man says, his son-in-law says to him, Boaz, right? Boaz Meshulam, he says to him, it says there, right there, like a few graves away is the grave of none other than Rabbi Dovid Feinstein, the person that 11 years ago, the rabbi, that they came to take him, but he couldn't go because his son was so sick. And now 11 years and a day later, Tom got a chance to meet Rabbi Dovid Feinstein at his kever. Now that is a classic Tom Rev story. To me that was an amazing story. I wrote that, I went to the newspaper, beautiful. But I want to tell you, with this I'm going to conclude. I'm going to turn over the microphone.
You don't have to.
Turn over the microphone to my good friend, the editor of Feldheim. What makes Tom so special? Isn't it? There's many things. We could go on and on about it. He's a special person. Look around you, everybody. You're all here because you love him and his wife. He's a special person. He's full of chen, right? You know, chen is charisma. He's a wonderful person. He's warm. He loves everyone. But there's another thing. There's two things I want to say. I want to focus on two things. Number one, that Tom loves Gedolim. He loves rabbis. He's mevatel himself to rabbis. It's a very special thing. A person say, I'm just a simple Jew, and I'm mevatel my das to the rabbi who learns Torah. I don't know anything. You tell me what to do. Tom exemplifies that concept of being mevatel to das Torah. There's another thing. Every person in the world has stories. I know this because I write them. People have stories. However, not everybody knows to open their eyes to recognize when a story happens. And here, my friend Tommy stands head and shoulders above because he sees. Tommy sees. His eyes, he has like X-ray vision, and he cuts through, and everything that happens to him, it's not just an event. He drove here, he drove there, he met this one, he met that one. No, it's the hand of God taking Tommy down the path of life. Mazel tov.
you, Rabbi, for telling us about that story again, and for the insights, which are very, very correct about Tom. We next welcome David Kahn, General Editor of Feldheim Publishers. David was a native of Chicago, Illinois, and studied in the Telz Yeshiva in Chicago and at Merkaz HaTorah in Jerusalem. David has a science degree from the Jerusalem College of Technology, has worked in high tech, and attended the Mir Yeshiva in New York and the Mir Yeshiva in Jerusalem for several years. He joined Feldheim Publishers some 20 years ago and became the general editor soon thereafter. He received smicha from Harav Zalman Nehemiah Goldberg, son-in-law to Harav Shlomo Zalman Orbach. David and his family live in Bayit Vagan. David Kahn.
First of all, I'd like to thank the hosts, as Nachman did, Ivor and Ruth. You hear me okay? And all of you for coming. I'm tall. You know, Tom, you didn't offer me a gin and tonic, you know? I haven't had one either. It's okay now? It's better? Okay. When I first became involved in the Magid of Sydney, and I spoke to Rav Nachman. You know, Rav Nachman, as has been mentioned already, is a world-renowned author. It's very hard to get him to do a book. He's very much in demand. And I said to him, how in the world did you do this book? It's not the type of book that he would normally do. It's normally something like he just did, 90 seconds, Eli Bir, not solo, and it's a big thing. And Nachman said to me, I did it as a mitzvah. And I took it, okay, it's a mitzvah. I took it at face value. But when I met Tom, I wasn't sure what the mitzvah was. My wife said to me, what mitzvah? I said, I know, he said it was a mitzvah. I take his word for it, you know. But when I met Tom, I understood what the mitzvah was. And that means that if you buy the book, it means you're being Mekayim a mitzvah. You should just know that it is a mitzvah. If you read the book, it gives you a bigger mitzvah.
What it feels.
What's the mitzvah? So if you open up the Shulchan Aruch, or Chaim, first page, it talks about how to get up in the morning, right? You have to get up in the morning like a lion. And then it says, a big mitzvah is Shivisi Hashem Minegdi Samim, that a person should have Hashem in front of him all the time. And the Chafetz Chaim, in his Mishnah Berurah, he has a long bir halacha, and he says that that's a very big mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that's all the time. And he says there are 6 mitzvos tmidios, 6 mitzvahs that a person is obligated to keep every single second of the day, to fear God and to love God, and all of them play into this Shavis Hashem and Negdi Samim, that you should always feel that God is in front of you all the time. So I just want to say a little vart which plays into what Nachman ended off, which is a favorite saying of mine in my family. The Torah says that when Moshe came to the burning bush, right, there was a burning bush, and the bush wasn't being consumed. Obviously, God was coming to give him a message. The pasuk says that Moshe Rabbeinu said, look at that, I'm going to go and take a look closer and see what that is. And the pasuk says, Vayar Hashem kisar deros, Hashem saw that he turned over to look at the burning bush, and then he talked to him. Hashem is talking to us all the time, but we have to pay attention. We have to say, what is that? Let's go closer. Let's take a closer look at that. Hashem is always talking to us, but the trick is to feel his presence all the time and to realize to pay attention to what he's telling us. The mitzvah in this book is that with Tom, Hashem is talking to him all the time. He feels that Hashem is there wherever he does, and he's giving him a message, and he's paying attention to the message. And that's a very, very important lesson for us, that if we read the book and we get that into our own bones, that's something that will be a big benefit in our own lives. Thank you all for coming, and that's my message. Ciao.
Thank you, David, for your message. I think it's a very good message to have. We got to tune in and say that God is talking to us all the time. We just got to recognize it. And as you said, listen to it and work with it. And now let's listen to Tom, who has been beside himself with excitement leading up to tonight, and to see his stories between hardcovers. Let us welcome Tom Rev.
Thank you, Rabbi Seltzer, for your unbelievable words. Rabbi Kahn, thank you everybody for being here. It's going to be a lot of thank yous along the way. Thank you. There are a couple of people that have flown in, a few people have flown in specially. My two daughters flew in specially from London for this event. Mahutan Philip Goldberg said he certainly cannot make it. He's very busy at work. He surprised me an hour or two ago. He's also here, Philip Goldberg, wherever you are. And one of my very, very dear friends, who happens to be my sixth cousin. We don't count. In Jewish custom, we don't count numbers, but he's my sixth cousin anyway. That's Josh Aronson from Manchester. So especially came in for the event. Now, just one more thing before I start my speech. My Hebrew name is Yitzhak Yaakov. My family name is Rosenbaum, and I'm very proud of it. Yitzhak was my great-grandfather on my father's side, and because my grandparents were first cousins, so his brother was Yaakov Rosenbaum. Two brothers, their children married each other, first cousins. The Stropkova Rebbe was in Sydney several years ago, fundraising. He went around, which 2-3 hours a day. The rest of the time he used to spend his time sitting in Adas, a little, very small shul in Sydney, Australia. Thousands and thousands of books in the shul. He picks up this old book. He's in the shul by himself. He opens it up, and inscribed in the top of this book, it's Derech HaChaim, the ways of our life. There is an inscription which you can hardly read. It's in pencil, and there's a date next to it. I cannot, and I've asked other people to recognize the date, which we cannot do. But the name in this siddur is Yaakov Rosenbaum. None other than my great-grandfather, who I'm named after. This is my inheritance from Yaakov Rosenbaum. His siddur, it's probably over 100 years old. That's very small compared to the other inheritance I have. My great-grandfather, his brother, ordered probably, in my opinion, the biggest and the best and the most expensive Sefer Torah money can buy. That Sefer Torah is in front of me right now. Yitzhak, my great-grandfather, who I'm named after. Yaakov, my other great-grandfather, who I'm named after. They're my two inheritances. It's worth billions to me. Here we go. Wish me luck. I would like to firstly thank Hashem for blessing us and bringing us here to Israel in the land of our forefathers. I would also like to thank firstly Ruth and Ivor for almost 40 years of wonderful friendship, support and hosting tonight in their beautiful home. Coincidentally, last week's Parsha was about the 12 spies. I often think about this story and always try to internalize it into my life. I mean to say, only look at the good things that we are blessed with here in Israel. I was born in Sydney, Australia, son of Hungarian Holocaust survivors who met and married in Sydney. My father had the privilege to meet the holy Kahn Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Munish of blessed memory, when he visited Sydney in the 60s. My father used to tell me that he met a Choda Rabbi, which translates from Hungarian into English, a miracle rabbi. At first, at a very young age, this didn't resonate with me, but as I grew older, I wanted to meet this wonder rabbi, which eventually I did. Through this early connection, which grew stronger year by year, I was later privileged to develop a close relationship with these two holy sons, the Kahn Rebbe of Yerushalayim, of blessed memory, and the Kahn Rebbe of Bnei Barak, whose wife is here representing the Rebbe tonight, the Rebbetzin of Kamana. The Kamana Rebbetzin, thank you. The success of this evening in seeing my wife Susan and my children Naomi, Rebecca, who flew in specially from London, and Daniel and our daughter-in-law Becca, making this evening a very special event. I would not be here today doing what I love the most, that is sharing my stories with one and all, without the love and support of my family. Particularly close to my heart is sharing the history of my family, the Rosenbaum family. This brings me to the following lovely story I experienced soon after Aliyah. One Motzei Shabbos during the World Cup finals, we were at Daniel and Becca's place in Tel Aviv for Shabbat. My son and I after Shabbat walked to Ben Yehuda Street to buy some alcohol. I entered a modern liquor store, and behind the counter was an elderly man with a white beard and a kippah. I tried to practice my Ivrit, so I asked if he stocked Psagot wines. He answered me in Hebrew, "Of course I do. It's one of Israel's best wines." I got excited because the owners are very good friends of ours, and the parents of Psagot Winery is here today with us, the Ben Lulu family. Then I asked him in Ivrit if he has been in the wine industry a long time. He answered me very excited, "Yes. As a matter of fact, I've been in the wine business all my life. As a matter of fact, my father was in the wine business with me all his life as well." I got very excited and I said to him, "Isn't that amazing?" All in my broken Hebrew, which was pretty limited in those days. It's a touch better now. I said to him, "That's amazing. My father was one of the biggest wine merchants in Budapest before and after the war, together with his father. So we had something incredible in common." Then he asked me what my name was. I said, "My name is Tom Rev, family Rosenbaum." He asked me, "Which Rosenbaum?" I told him my grandfather was from Paksh. Then we discovered he was my father's second cousin.
Everyone is Tom's second.
Sadly enough, some of my second cousins should have been here tonight and not. However, I've got a handful of sixth cousins here, and I really treasure that fact. So as I said before, it doesn't matter the number.
Okay, guys.
We never knew them, and vice versa. They didn't know about us being in Australia at all. There is a lot more to this story, but that's for next time, or maybe my second book. If that's not a plug, I don't know what it is. Okay. To Anna and Joe, I would like to thank you for your guidance, advice and friendship over the past 7 years. It's been incredible, especially the run-up to this event. I would like to thank lots of people here tonight. You are all very, very important to me. A special thank you to my friend and great and world famous author Rabbi Nachman Seltzer, who brought my dream to reality, sharing my stories with people far and wide. Some people will see my stories as coincidences, but I see them as the hand of God in all my stories. Sitting in this room is a Sefer Torah. So let me tell you a little history of this magnificent Sefer Torah. This Sefer Torah was written in Eretz Yisrael about 100 years ago in honor of my great-grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. Rabbi Rosenbaum, his wife, her name was Rosa Bartzella, and became Rosenbaum, obviously. People generally didn't live that long in those days. They must have been over 70 to have a 50-year wedding anniversary. The maths add up, right? Its journey started off in Palestine, then shipped to Pressburg, Bratislava, then to Paks, Hungary, about 100 kilometers south of Budapest on the Danube River. After World War II, my grandfather went back to Paks to see what and who is still there. He met the priest who looked after his father's Sefer Torah during the war and wanted to return it to my grandfather. That is in the book, by the way. That's in Rabbi Seltzer's book. Our book. We're in partnership. What a partnership. My grandfather smuggled it out of Hungary by bribing the authorities to Sydney, Australia. It's a big story in my book, a very big story. As a matter of fact, that was the story that clinched Rabbi to write my book. That particular story was the first story when we met, and within half an hour, 45 minutes, the deal was done. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the witness, and we shook hands, and that was the start of the honeymoon. It's a long honeymoon. It was housed for many years. You know my hat, please. It was housed for many years in my shul in Adas Yisrael in Bondi. There were many Sefer Torahs in the Oren HaKodesh. However, next to ours, there was an identical Sefer Torah which had a similar journey. The story of this Sefer Torah, the owner of this Sefer Torah is none other than Mr. Goldschmidt from Gold's Bookstore. He's the Judaica store in Sydney and Melbourne. They sell all the Judaica books with Feldheim, etc. It happens to be identical to ours, both in the writing inside and notably the intricate woodwork on the upper plate. I advise everybody just have a look at the upper plate. It's something special, made up in Pressburg. Mr. Goldschmidt is also a descendant of our illustrious family, the Rosenbaum family. Two Sefer Torahs. These two Sefer Torahs were written about the same time in Palestine in the 1920s, and miraculously, please listen, they journeyed after World War II to Sydney, Australia, where they were reunited in a little shul in Bondi at the end of the world next to each other. Now, if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. To some people, these facts are coincidental. I say that it's another example of the hand of God. Tonight with us in this very room is a couple. Chalik. Bo b'kasha. Sarah v'Hilik, ani mevakesh. How'd you like my Hebrew? That was Who said that?
Just give us a spot. Go. No.
I'll do it again. Tonight with us, that's loud. In this very... Can I have a glass of cold water?
No.
Can somebody give me a glass of cold water, please? With ice? Ice with water? Tonight with us, in this very room... This couple were wrongly accused in Sydney of a terrible crime 22 years ago. Apparently the magistrate was not satisfied with the prosecution, that the prosecution established a prima facie case so dismissed the charges. On arrival back to Israel, Yechiel and Sarah, or Chilik as we call him, were taken into police custody. Into police custody at the airport, as their story had to be checked out properly. It was a time of terrible tension. Hundreds of people outside waiting for these guys, him and his wife, to be received, 24-year-old couple, to be released. It was shocking. Not knowing if they were going to be charged or, God forbid, extradited back to Australia. It was really bad. Today, Chilik is a world-famous clarinet player, and he's one of my closest and dearest friends, together with his dear wife, and Chilik's mother is here with us as well tonight.
אני מצטער, אני אגיד בעברית, אני לא מבין כלום ממה שמדברים. אנחנו ממש לא, אני קצת מרגיש מנותק, אני אגיד כמה 2-3 מילים ממני. אני יכול להגיד, אני לא מדבר מספיק בקול? אוקיי. אני לא יכול לספר עכשיו את כל הסיפור, אבל אני מתאר לעצמי שבספר נחמן סלצר כתבת מספיק, נכון? זה מספיק. הסיפור ארוך וכל מי שירצה יראה בספר, אבל אני אגיד משהו אחד מנקודה אחת שלי. כשאנחנו הגענו לאוסטרליה, הגענו בתור קרימינלים. אנשים ברחוב הסתכלו עלינו, היו רואים אותנו, בצד אחד של המדרכה, היו עוברים לצד השני, כאילו לא רואים אותנו. אני ואשתי היינו זוג צעיר, וכמובן הרגשנו לא נעים, אבל הבנו את המצב. הבנו שזה, גם אם זה היה קורה ממול, אנחנו גם אולי היינו חושבים ככה. הבן אדם היחידי בסידני, חוץ מהשליחים של הרבי מלובביץ' שאצלהם כל דבר זה נמצא מעל, הרבי זה לא חשוב אם אתה כזה יהודי או כזה יהודי, אז מקבלים כל אחד, והרב פולמן הכניס אותנו הביתה וטיפל בנו הכל, אבל נדבר מבחינת אנושית, שבן אדם ראה אותנו וישב בבוצ'ה, בדלפק שלו איפה שמוכרים את הבשר והנקניקים והלשון המלושן וכל הדברים הטעימים, ואנחנו עוברים, והייתי בטוח שגם הוא, אז אשתי אומרת לי, זה חנות כשרה, בשר כשר, שתכיר. וזה היה ביום הראשון שיצאתי לעבוד, והוא הרים את העיניים פתאום, ורואה אותנו עוברים. הוא עושה ככה. עכשיו ראיתי את התנועה הזאת, אמרתי, מי יודע מה הולך להיות פה, הוא הולך לתת לנו על הראש. אתה לא מתבייש, אבל איכשהו בא, קודם כל מה אתה אוהב? זו השאלה שלו, מה אתה רוצה? כזה סוג, ואני שואל את אשתי, אני בשוק. ואני אומר, זה היה הפגישה הראשונה. אחרי זה כבר היינו בבית, וכל מסיבה, והרגשנו מקום הכי צלעות כבש, אין מה לדבר, צלעות כבש. זה היה הדבר, אנחנו לא היינו רגילים בירושלים לאכול כבש, אבל כשהגענו לאוסטרליה התחלנו לאכול כבש. היה כבש, בבית של משפחת חב יש כל הזמן כבש, מתגן לנו בברביקיו. ובאמת הרגשנו טיולים ולהוציא אותנו, ובאמת אני אומר כזה דבר שאני קיבלתי מזה יותר מכל מה שהיה לי, לקבל עין טובה על השני, לראות את השני, להרגיש את השני, לא משנה באיזה מצב. זה תום רב, זה משפחה של סוזן ותום שבאמת קיבלו אותנו עם כל איך שאנחנו נראים, ואני שמח שאני זוכר שיש לי קשר עם כזה יהודי. אז נגן משהו אחד לכבוד. אמנם רבי יצחק ינקב, אני רגיל לקרוא לו בקשר לנגן ניגון, אבל אני חושב שדווקא ניגון של המילים של דוד המלך, אם נשכחך ירושלים, אנחנו נמצאים פה במקום כזה שרואים את כל ירושלים, אז מי שרוצה יכול להצטרף.
סורי בבקשה, סורי, חשוב מאוד. יש משהו בשבילך עכשיו. Can you lift this up? Can somebody lift this up, please? This wonderful lady is the world famous clarinet player's Rebbitzin. Suri Frank. We have a very, very, very big surprise. Maybe you haven't had any surprises so far, but this is a big one, or perhaps another big one if I may say so. Here tonight, in this crowd, and I'm not going to point her out because I was asked not to, but she's in this crowd and she knows exactly who I'm talking about. There is the police lady who was guarding Suri passionately 25 years ago in the police station. Stare it. 22 שנים, את יושבת בכיסא והיא עומדת על ידך.
השוטרת ששומרת עלייך
במשטרה.
היא נמצאת בחדר.
בלוד.
נמצאת בחדר.
את זוכרת?
כן, כן, כן? וואו.
I haven't seen this lady for 22 years. Wow. And thank you, Joe and Anna, the organisers of this fantastic evening. They put me together with this lady who's going to be totally anonymous. And she was guarding Suri in the police station. Part of my story, you'll see it. Unbelievable experience. Just another little handical, just a little one. I was given permission to go inside the police station. I was given permission to go inside the police station to say hello to Sarah. Dakai had rak ivrit, and I pretended I didn't understand. Only 1 minute, only Hebrew. I think I stayed there for almost an hour. What a surprise. Thank you, Benjamin. This is another one of my stars in the book, Benjamin Alexander. Benjamin Alexander from Sfat, you'll see him prominently in the book. Very important part of the story. I was speaking to Sarah and the policewoman interjected and asked me if you are Naomi Rev's father from Australia. We're in the police station.
Naomi Rev.
My daughter, Dara, next to the Sefer Torah, put your hand up, Naomi. My daughter was in Midrashet Harova in the old city on the gap year. I answered yes with great trepidation.
What has she been doing?
She then answered me, the police lady, policewoman, so whatever's politically correct, I don't know right now. She answered me, don't you remember me? I was at your Shabbos table a few weeks ago. Is Graham your stepfather? Can I say that? Can I say Graham's your stepfather? No. Okay. So, yet another example of the hand of God.
Yep.
It gives me great pleasure to have her here tonight. I would like to conclude my address by thanking each and every one of you for making this evening such a big success. I hope you will enjoy my stories in this well-written book by the famous Rabbi Nachman Seltzer, who has put it together, with the hope that this will be my first of many more books and many more stories. There is a fantastic opportunity tonight to acquire the film rights of the book. So please come forward if you want to do business. Or perhaps see my partner, Rabbi Seltzer. Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to go on any further, but there's tremendous memorabilia over there and over here. It is mind-blowing stuff. Should I go into a little bit of it or not? It's enough. Okay. The memorabilia there is mind-blowing, both sides. Please ask me any questions you like. One of the memorabilia, just to give you an idea, it is mind-blowing stuff, is my original Bar Mitzvah speech from my Bar Mitzvah teacher, Professor Heidingsfeld, who I loved with all my heart till today. It was handwritten by Professor Heidingsfeld, 1967, the week of the Six-Day War. It is there for all to see, the original Bar Mitzvah speech. If anybody wants to view the sacred children, it's open for everyone.
Can I have your attention, please? We haven't finished. Thank you, Tom, for your stories. And while Tom was talking, a thought crossed my mind. Rabbi Seltzer is now quite accustomed to writing series, so maybe we've got the Magid of Sydney series.
I think it was taken already. My brother Pesach Pro. He got the Magid series.
Okay. We are all here. We're all here for Tom's book launch. And so please make this a success and buy some books, as Tom and Sue don't particularly want to schlep them back to the apartment. Tom and Rabbi Seltzer will be happy to sign you your copy. And we hope many of you will leave here tonight with the book in your hands, ready to settle in for a wonderful, heartwarming ride by way of Tom's remarkable stories. For those wishing to dub in Marie, will do so outside.
Outside on the porch.
Rowan has been knocking. He's been knocking. Yes.
Remember? No, you're supposed to say the other one. Like 5
tagged it. And